Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Making Connections, the interview show. This is the third interview of our 2024 election coverage, a special edition show like we've done in the last few days. Those interviews are now out on Facebook and through social media, so you can get a chance to learn more about the other candidates that we have interviewed. It is an honor for us to have with us today Sheriff Eric Aden. He is running for re-election to be the Okaloosa County Sheriff for a few more years. Sheriff Aden, thank you for joining us. I know you recently got back from a long trip, I'm sure, and we appreciate you being with us on a Saturday morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, David. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and talk to you this morning.
Some of our audience may not know who Sheriff Aden is. I know you are a very well-known community leader here, have served as sheriff since 2021, but there may be somebody out there that doesn't know who you are. So just briefly tell us a little bit about who you are, Sheriff.
Well, I'll start from the beginning, I guess. I was born here on Eglin Air Force Base. My father was a young pilot going through pilot training here, and my mom became a school teacher, was here for 25 years in the school system before she retired. My brother and I are very close, and we were raised through the school system here in Okaloosa County, graduated from Choctaw. At an early age, I knew I have 5 children, by the way. I'm married to a wonderful wife, Mandy, with five children, 4 girls. And I have a little grandbaby that's turning one next month. So have 4 girls and a little boy who's 9, and he's not little anymore. But very proud of my family, and we have deep roots here in the area. To Florida State, I'm a diehard Auburn fan. My father went to Auburn, and so I grew up an Auburn fan. But I also am a huge Florida State fan. I went there. My wife went there, and I went there because it's the #1 criminology school. And it was absolutely an incredible choice to make. I loved my 4 years there. I came home. I actually had aspirations to maybe go into the federal system. But I said I came home and I interned in the summer of '93 with the Okaloosa County Sheriff Department, and the bug hit me even more to become that deputy sheriff, that community, public safety example in the community that I love dearly. I knew I never wanted to leave Okaloosa County, and so the fear of going to the feds was concerning to me. It also probably would have likely never turned that into fruition that I became the sheriff if I had done that, because without relationships, which is what gets you here, building those lifelong relationships in the community is the only way that you can really be successful in earning the confidence of your community to become the sheriff. So I remember when I graduated college, my mom said, "Son, don't you want to stay and go to law school?" I said, "Heck no, Mom. I want to come home and make $17,000 a year as a deputy sheriff." And that's exactly what I did. I worked on the road for a few years. I went into the school when we first went into they had changed it from junior high to middle school. I went into the school. I was asked by the sheriff. I didn't really want to do that. SROs were fairly new at the time. I didn't really want to do that, but it was one of the most rewarding times of my career. I did still have aspirations. Keep in mind that I might want to go to the feds and then come back. That was kind of the path towards going into the feds, was to do a few years in local law enforcement. Again, I think the Lord was keeping me in the right direction and putting me in the right path, even despite my own decision to try and go federally. I ended up turning down federal jobs, but in doing so, I helped my brother start a mortgage banking and finance company, and did hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of mortgages and financial planning, et cetera, and debt consolidation, all those sort of things for um, your blue collar people, your teachers, your deputy sheriffs. They all came to us, fire department. We didn't go out there and try and hit these big condos and things like that. No offense to that. That just wasn't our market. Our market was your middle class folks, and so it kept us alive during the tough times. But what it did for me is gave me a tool in my shed that I never knew that I would be so beneficial to me. Because when you oversee a $70 million budget, it's big business. And our county taxpayers expect that we are fiscally responsible with the money, and I'm a taxpayer myself. So it's not lost on me that I do not ask for things that I don't need, and I don't ask for wages that don't put us in the market to be the very best, highest paid, highest benefited department in the region. And so I've been very successful in that. But that banking and finance, I don't want to make light of that. That was hugely important in me understanding. I've always been a numbers guy. My CFO will tell you I don't miss anything when it comes to numbers. Out of a $70 million, I caught a $100,000 mistake, and that's a lot of money, but it's not in a $70 million budget. And I caught it, and we revised it and corrected it. So I'm proud of that because there's a lot of thought and process that goes into the budgeting side of being the sheriff. Let me go back. So I graduate, I'm in the banking and finance business, and an opportunity comes up for me to get back into law enforcement. I came back in law enforcement. I was promoted to sergeant. Then later on, I was promoted to lieutenant. And after about 2 years of being a lieutenant, I was working for Larry Ashley had called and asked that I come back to work when he ran. A lot of people think that I moved up the ranks rapidly. It's not the case. I sat as a lieutenant for 8 years, and the reason I did that, and it's important to know, is that Larry Ashley had the confidence in me early on, as did Under Sheriff Don Adams. They saw that I had the potential to be the next sheriff, and they were looking at a succession plan. And I had a lot of ties to the community, a lot of relationships that were valuable, and I had a skill set that a lot of people didn't have, and I had the education. So they looked at, did I want to go become the sheriff? And it was like an answered prayer. So what they did, it wasn't, obviously, it's not lost on me that it wasn't just given to me. They moved me around for several years because lieutenant, you're a mid-level manager at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. You're not part of command staff yet, but you're not down at the first line supervisor like a sergeant. And no, all of those jobs are very valuable, very important to us. Probably the toughest and the most important job in our agency is being a first line supervisor sergeant. But the mid-level supervisor is the sweet spot where you still have the flexibility to be moved around. And they were able to move me to different roles within the sheriff's office to really learn every aspect of the sheriff's office. It gave me a grasp and a firm understanding of all the different facets, which was vitally important. And then I did move to captain. I was promoted to captain. And I was moved into a couple of roles, and I became a major over operations. Actually, I'll never forget it. It was in October of 2018, because it was when Hurricane Michael was bearing down on our. It was looking like it was coming right
in
to
our
us,
area, right?
and veered off to Bay County, unfortunately, but fortunately for us. But
For them.
anyway, that was my first immersion into being a major over operations, and it was very interesting times. So
You can only
I
imagine.
so then I got selected to go to the coveted Florida FBI National Academy, where I got a graduate certificate in criminal justice through the University of Virginia. It was a master's level program that we took through the FBI Academy. And there I met the most incredible people and it's so funny. There's such a diverse country, but I think coming from this military environment and this
Hmm.
highly prominent military or DoD affiliated 5 military bases here that we have, not even to include the EOD base out there. Um,
Hmm.
and that diversity that we had at the FBI National Academy, it's funny that someone with North Florida would be so close with people from NYPD and Philly PD and all these other places, but we've remained close and speak daily on text and on phone calls. But it's allowed me to have peers around the country in different areas. So moving forward, I came back from the FBI National Academy. I filed right when I got back in August of yes 19, and I won unopposed election in August of 2020. It was actually I won in June of 2020, in fact, because there was no opponents that came out and tried to. I built up a pretty good war chest that first time, and certainly was prepared for a opponent. I was shocked because it was the first time we had an unopposed sheriff race in the history
Right.
of Okaloosa County. So I say that to say, okay, so what have we done since I became the sheriff? Because I inherited an incredible agency from Larry Ashley. He was an incredible sheriff, an incredible mentor, incredible friend. And I still lean on him to this day when things come up that, hey, how would you handle this? I trust him and he trusted me. So I became the sheriff. And some of the things that I wanted to do was just enhance on what he's done. What I did was I built on some of the technology that was coming out as he was leaving, the LPRs, our real-time crime center. I mean, we have lowered violent crime by 26%. And that's been huge. But here's some things that people don't understand. When I inherited the sheriff's office, I sat down with the NAACP when I first came into office, and I said, "Hey, how can you help me, and how can I help you? Let's continue to build the relationships that we have, and if there's a situation, God forbid that you allow me to prove that I'm not transparent, accountable, and credible, and have integrity." I said, "And let the facts speak for themselves." And I said, and in turn, I would like for your help in trying to recruit African Americans, because at the time, you got to realize this was post George Floyd that I inherited the agency. There was a whole negative light on law enforcement, certainly in the African American community. So I pulled out. I was asked, at the time we had 5.5% African Americans, which is not representative of our community. So
Right.
we've increased those numbers to 8%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but nearly 3% is almost 30% when you're looking at a 5.5 increase. Persons of
Yes.
color, Hispanic community and such, we've increased those numbers to 16%, and those numbers
Wow.
from 13. Here's some good. I just swore in 12 new deputies, and 5 of them were females. Let me tell you how we measure up with females. We all know law enforcement's historically been a male-dominated environment.
Correct.
We have always done a good job in law enforcement. When I was at the FBI Academy, I looked at our numbers, and the national average was 9%. Well, we were at 13%. Well, we've grown that to 18%. And the national average is sitting at about 12% females in law enforcement. But here's the important number to look at. Nationally, women represent 3% of leadership roles in law enforcement. 11% of our leadership roles are filled by women. And so it tells a young lady, if you come into law enforcement, you've got a great chance to be able to move up the ladder in this organization as opposed to other places. So those are some important things. But the violent crime is one of the most important things I want you to understand. In 2022, we had 4,005 violent crimes. In 2023, we had 2,808. That's a huge reduction. And if you count from what I inherited in 2020, the tools of technology like the real-time crime center, the license plate readers, all of the things that we have, Star Chase, and all the different technology we have at our disposal has dropped violent crime by 26%. And if you look at 2020, it actually is 35% reduction where we're sitting now compared to then.
So Sheriff, do you think some of those things that you've done, obviously, like increasing the number of officers that are different backgrounds, obviously the technology items that you mentioned also, those are directly related to the decrease in the crime rate?
Yeah, absolutely. One, our retention rate, it's all about numbers. Okay. Being a cop, you're either proactive or reactive. And so let's just break it down for you. In Law Enforcement 101 at Florida State, you learn there's proactive and reactive enforcement.
Right.
Reactive is when we go to a call that, let's say there's a domestic and someone calls and says, "Hey, my husband just hit me." We react, okay? Or you can be proactive, and proactive can be a number of things. It can be a car sitting in a parking lot while they're writing a report. That's a visible deterrent for crime, right? At 2 o'clock in the morning. If you're wanting to break into a building near there and you see a cop, you're probably not going to break into that building, correct? So that's being proactive. When you don't have bodies out there on the street to be able to combat that, the numbers speak for themselves, but it's directly correlated to, yes, the technology I mentioned, but also, David, is to the number of boots on the ground.
Yes.
Our peers around the state suffer a 7% vacancy factor. I've always said this. There's 3 constants here: death, taxes, and vacancies at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. But I focused on recruitment and retention at the FBI Academy, and I implemented some things such as the cadet program. I implemented some other things that we did, going to certain targeting minority events, historical Black colleges, going to the churches, trying to engage to get some of those folks that may not want to go on to college or can't afford to college or don't want to leave the area to join the military, whatever the case may be. We want to be that home, and it's proven to be successful. But overall, our numbers are hugely successful. We've had vacancies here. Don't get me wrong. And
Right.
we average since I've taken office 4% vacancy. We have 350 sworn officers. We have a 4% vacancy factor on average. Some days it's 10, some days it's 12%. I mean, not 12%. Some days it's 10 vacancies, some days it's 12 vacancies, and it's gotten as high as 20. But right now, as of Friday, we're at three vacancies on our sworn side. We only have a less than 1% vacancy factor. The state average is 7. So when you have that, when you're only missing 3 deputies, that we're almost full. It's unheard of in these times to be full of law enforcement, but we're doing it better. It's a product of our HR manager. It's a product of our administrative major that work diligently, making sure those roles and those applicants without, and this is important, without losing sight of the quality applicants that we want to work in our agency. We're not lowering our standard of hire. We're keeping that same level of standard. And it's a rigorous process, but we've proven to be successful at it.
That's correct. So you've put together a pretty good, solid team all the way from the top down to the bottom. In all the different departments that allow you to do such things. Sheriff, what are some of the biggest challenges though that are facing your department right now?
I'll tell you, it's housing. I've got an email that I printed up. I haven't used it yet, but it was a young person that was coming here. We wanted him. He wanted to work here, and he almost could not come to work here if it wasn't for a local police department police officer that offered him to share rent at a reasonable price. Basically, the musical chairs have stopped, and they stopped years ago. As far as the housing, we've got deputies. Now, I will say this. 60% of our hires since I got elected, 60% of our deputies have come from outside the county. We have been able to find them courtesy officer places, reduced rent for services, basically apartment complexes that want a deputy there. 37% of our cadets are typically homegrown individual. 37% of them have come from outside the area. Cadets is a program I can talk about, but the housing is the biggest problem. We are working, and I first started working when the chamber, the Fort Walton Beach Chamber, and some of our county commissioners and other leaders in the community, to include the military, were working on trying to find an avenue for orphan properties for Eglin. We don't want to affect the mission, but Eglin suffers from the same problem. And then it just exacerbates the problem when they raise the BAH, which their staff gets to have. The civilian staff does not get to have that benefit. And so we have to try and compete by raising the salaries, because it's the only way we can stay competitive with the rental market. And then most of our deputies can't afford to even buy a home in Okaloosa County. They're living in outcropping areas, which we would prefer them to live in Okaloosa County. So I would say the greatest challenge as far as to internally would be housing. Externally,
Yes.
it's the opioid problem. And I can talk about that too, if you'd like. Obviously, domestic violence has been around since probably Adam and Eve. If I had to guess, it certainly goes back to the Bible. But I will tell you that that's always the largest problem in any law enforcement community. But right now, the southern border, the drugs coming across the southern border and coming into our community and killing our residents across the country, and Okaloosa at a very high rate, we had to do something. And we've worked on something called the POST program, and it's a post overdose team that goes out, and it's a partnership with the Okaloosa Health Department and all of our partners it's a multi-agency partnership with the Health Department, Northwest Florida Mental Health, also the Sheriff's Office, and all the PDs sending officers out. It's been proven, and if you heard the forum on the 27th of June, you heard me talk about this program. It has been proven statistically, and Chief Beige was behind this, as well as myself, and as well as the other chiefs. Chief Beige's agency, Fort Walton, was the first one to roll it out. The second one we're going to roll out in the north end, and then we're going to continue to put it out there countywide, where we send a deputy out with someone to offer resources within 24 to 48
Yes.
hours. And if you can get to those people, there's a huge decrease in recidivism rate of overdoses if we can do that. It's a program that's modeled around the country and other places, and I'm so proud that we're doing that here, because we got to get in front of it.
Yes, yes, it is. It is such an important thing to obviously, take care of the safety piece, and that is the arresting of the people that are selling, that are, that are distributing these drugs, but also more importantly, taking care of the people that are suffering through them, through the drugs themselves, taking the drugs and providing those opportunities to recover, to receive services, counseling, whatever it takes for them to not do it anymore in the future, which will obviously also lessen the capability of the distributors to bring it
Yeah.
in
On
more and
that note,
more. So
David,
it all goes together. Who do you work with on those programs, Sheriff? Are you working with a certain group of advocates and or agencies that are all working towards this goal of helping those people that are before they get addicted or whatever the case may be?
yeah, so obviously Bridgeways a partner. The Northwest Florida Mental Health is a partner, and the Northwest Florida Health Network, I'm sorry, is a partner. The health department is a huge partner. They're one of the big driving stakeholders in the program. Chief Beige, as I mentioned, and all of the other police departments, Valparaiso, Crestview, Fort Walton, Niceville, they all have people represented ready to go, and we're rolling those out there in the next coming months with those municipalities. Some of them had to get funded up to be able to do it, but we stand ready to work with them and assist them at the sheriff's office until they're ready to do it. But all of those partners are there. The resources that we offer them are things like Bridgeways, Northwest Florida Health Network, being there to offer them resources for whether it be NA or any of those resources that the Okaloosa County offers through the health department or health network and through the health department. We point them in the direction that they need. Sometimes it's sometimes they're homeless. I know that's another issue. Sometimes they're homeless, and we try and help them get on their feet using One Hopeful Place. It just depends on what resources they need.
Got it. Um, you obviously have some opponents, as we mentioned, that are running against you. Two individuals that are running against you. One of the common things that they bring up, as I've been part of some of the forums, is trust and transparency,
Yeah.
and having enough officers out on the streets.
Mm.
On the trust and transparency piece, they allege, obviously, that as a result of the incident that with Senior Airman Roger Fortson and others that have occurred in the recent past, that the trust in the sheriff's department has been lost as it relates to the overall community. Is that a fair accusation, Sheriff? Do you feel that? Because I know that there was a lot of activities that took place soon after that situation, meetings and town halls and kind of things, conversations, which are very important. Would you like to address that accusation, let's call it,
Yeah.
from your
I
opponents?
I would love to. I don't think that you could prove any more transparency than just to look at the list of endorsements that I have. The endorsements among all the community, not just politicians, obviously. I'm a cop that happens to be an elected official, but I built those bricks of transparency years ago. It was the way I was raised. It was the way I treated people. And I don't think that anyone could have chartered the waters. And I said this at one of the forums is it's real easy to captain a ship when calm seas. We had a couple of incidents that brought national attention, and the timeliness of them was terrible, but it doesn't stop the 980,000 interactions we've had with the public in the last 4 years. I mean, nearly a million. I know this, there was only one perfect person that's ever been born. And I will tell you this right now that we hire humans and we train. The two criticisms, training and transparency. You won't find a more highly trained agency than us. Just because someone made a human error doesn't mean that we don't train. We do 4 times the required state minimum. No, we do additional other types of training that are helpful for our officers to come home safely and to provide that public safety. One of the things that brought national attention was you had an individual that knows law enforcement's at the door and comes to the door with a gun, and two really good people come together, both of which are veterans, or both of you have a a decorated veteran on one side of the door and you have a decorated veteran on the other side of the door that has transitioned to being a law enforcement officer and spent 20 years as a military or private sector cop. He's a minority as well. He was a Hispanic male. And, when you're met with a gun at 3 feet and you're there on a domestic call and we were at the right apartment, then a tragedy took place. We terminated that deputy for a violation of a policy. It does not mean he's going to be criminally charged. Doesn't mean he's not going to be criminally charged. Doesn't mean he's going to be convicted or not convicted. There are other things that are going to come into play in a criminal case that doesn't come into play in the administrative investigation. The administration investigation merely proved that he violated our policy.
Your
We
policy,
could
right?
not sacrifice the public that we serve at their pleasure it, it, for the to benefit one of our own deputies that made a human error mistake. Um, I think that deputy will believe for the rest of his life it was self-defense, and I think that will play out in the facts of the case that will be given to the state attorney's office, and the state attorney's decision to move forward or not with that case is still out there. But of course, right after this case and just before the deadline, two people come out, and one of them's focusing on transparency, and one of them's focusing on training, neither of which we suffer from. And I went around, and it's a testament to our community. It's not just my leadership. I'm not going to tout it's just my leadership. I know I did the very best I could. There's a guy named Randy Nelson. He's a doctor of relationship. He owns 21st Century. It's a relationship builder that goes around to communities and things like this. He told the Florida Sheriff's Association director right after the heels of all this stuff kind of settled down, when he said, I don't know if you know that sheriff from Okaloosa County, but he said him and his community weathered this storm better than I've ever seen a community weather the storm. It's a testament to our community. Our community was not going to let this
Relationship.
divide us. Our community was going to allow the facts to speak for themselves. There is a huge love for the military. I share that love. I'm a product of the military. I was born on Eglin Air Force Base. 60% of our deputies have come from the military or DOD. Right now, we have 33% of our staff is military or DOD affiliated. We love the military, and this person was a military a deputy. But what I will tell you is that we also the public loves our sheriff's office, and they understand our phones calls have not stopped calling. I've gone around. We've only lost. This is a testament. People don't leave when they know they're cared about. And I went around to
Right.
every group I possibly could do and meet with. We're still getting applications. We're still have only 3 vacancies at the sheriff's office, and we've only had 1 deputy leave after this termination. One, that tells you that they believe in the process. They believe that if that our process is fair. There's going to be a difference of opinions. Not every officer believes that person didn't act justly at the door. But our policy was violated, and I wouldn't be able to face the public if we had protected him against his actions just to protect him. But I wouldn't be able to face the community, and I think that's why the transparency it was there. You can't be more transparent than that.
Yeah. And the
And
bottom
then on
line,
the
is, facing the community is only one of the issues. You would not be able to face your own force if because there's differences in the thinking within the force also that you have to address. You have to be able to manage all those things, regardless of what's being spouted out there in the media and or by individuals that think, the culture is the one that led to this situation rather than a potential human error by an individual
well,
in a
Dave,
situation where we don't nobody knows how we would react in such a situation also.
oh, you wouldn't. And we have something called a Milo system. It's like an arcade game so that you can do force on force training. And we use simunitions and all those things in our training throughout the year. And this deputy had done all those training things. But here's something that the public needs to understand. Unfortunately, this particular incident was a perfect storm in that we had an outside attorney, come into our community with a fabricated story of complete untruths that unfortunately, it's a tragedy anyway, but there's no need to fan the flames of a tragedy. And he did. And when he came into this community, people believed that. I had to get out there as best I could. And it was truly an unbelievable challenge to try and fan back the flames of the false narrative that he gave. I still go around the community and people don't understand all the facts of the case. I mean, there were allegations that we did this and did that and did this and did that, and it was reprinted in all the papers and then turned around and
Press
reprinted
release.
in military.com, and none of it was true. I mean, it was certainly a tragedy. We put the facts out there, and that's the only thing we could do is let the facts lead us to our conclusion.
Right. And yeah, you've already covered, through this conversation, the other issue that, is being brought up, and that is the manpower issue. Not enough personnel on the
Yeah,
streets,
right.
which is also probably not correct. I said recently the same thing with school resource officers. That we don't have enough, or that they keep changing, and all those kind of things. And I heard you cover that area. Do you want to add anything more to those two accusations of manpower and or the very the
Well,
difference people serving as school resource officers, no continuity, um, and all of those things?
well, first of all, I'm not going to stand up there. I'm a good steward of your money. I'm a good steward of the taxpayers' money. I'm not going to stand up there and ask for bodies when we have vacancies. The moment that we get filled, now we have increased, and that's because we've started getting better and better at our vacancies. We've increased 35 full-time jobs, which is 35 full-time jobs over the course of my tenure here. Now there were several of them that, we have 10 of those are and they're basically people in waiting to be deputies. They're going to school, again, training. So those are civilian positions, but we've had 9 deputies that we've added. And if you count the cadets, we've had 19 deputies added. But I'm not going to stand up there and ask for 20 new deputies until we fill our vacancies. I'm not going to say we're not going to ask for that in the future, but we have been asking for that. We have increased our numbers. We've increased 9 sworn, 10 cadets, total of 19 that will go into the sworn, and then we have the remaining of the 35 are our civilian positions that we've added. So, and the SRO program, I don't know that we've gotten criticized for having not enough. We actually were criticized because somebody was saying that we pay for half the SROs. That's not true. There's 2 pots of money, the Board of County Commission and the school board. They split it 50-50. And they've been doing this since 1996, at least, because I was an SRO in 97, 98 time frame, and we were doing it back then. So, unless and those things aren't changed by me. I mean, those things need to be funded. I think that the public would vastly support that. I can't believe my opponent would want to take SROs out of schools and not do that. And I'm not saying that he is advocating for that, but he's kind of mentioned that he would take them out and put them in the on the street, which would be great to have 50 more deputies. But that thing comes at a cost, and so not understanding budget, never having any experience at the executive level of even understanding a budget or managing resources is why neither one of the opponents can really speak to it, really very well, because they haven't done it.
Right. And bottom line is the position of sheriff doesn't just entail the fact that you have some experience as a deputy, several years, whatever the case may be, but there's also a wide a variety of other things that you're exposed to, that you have to manage, that you have to budget, that you have all those things that a chief of a corporation per se must have experience in, and from all the um, curriculum and things that you've exposed today, and that you can see in your website, that you have all those things covered and have shown it for 3 years per se already. Um, I'm going to close out with a couple of more personal questions, in the sense, Sheriff, because I'm part of these two sectors of the community. I have a young man. He's 22 years old, has autism. You can tell he has autism if you saw him, obviously, and there's many children like that, many kids out there with different cognitive disabilities, that the regular Joe person is not able to tell they have some type of a disability. And so that becomes a safety issue for us parents, when my son is out there maybe walking around in a store or whatever the case may be. he may act up a little bit, and then as approached by either a police officer or a security person in the store, or in the case of somebody from your department, a sheriff's deputy. Uh, does your department provide any type of training to the deputies in dealing with special needs uh, adults and or teenagers?
Yes, sir. So nationwide, there's a training called CIT, is critical incident training, and it helps. There's a myriad of things that it teaches, but we put all of our officers through it, and what it teaches them is how to deal with people that have communicative, disorders or have special needs. It also helps them understand how your body's going to react when you yourself are in a critical incident, such as one of the shootings that we've been in, or a high speed pursuit, or any of those things. So there's a myriad of things it covers, critical incident, and but there's a program I want to talk about and tell you about this, because you probably have it in your county because you're in Santa Rosa, correct?
Santa
Um,
Rosa,
so
yes,
so I don't know if you're familiar with the SAFE program, are you?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So Bob Johnson, and actually I should give Big Ange, I was trying, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was trying to find her last name to give her credit, because I don't like just calling her Big Ange. She's actually a very small Italian fireball, and she was named AFSOC Spouse of the Year because of this program she started, and it's the SAFE program. And I was introduced to her by Bob Johnson, the sheriff of Santa Rosa County. And she's a wonderful partner. She came over and explained the program. We've implemented it here. And what it is if you are, and I've promoted it. Myself and my PIO, I actually have a picture of me slapping one of the stickers on the back of a car. But that sticker, if you remember when we were children, you would have a fireman on the, this is how I explain it to the public. We would have a fireman on the window of the children's home, so that if the firemen came, they knew to extract the children out of that room first, that was,
Yes.
first and foremost. Well, this is kind of the same principle. Big Ange, and you should know this, Hurlburt Field has the number one, from what Big Ange told me, is that they're the number one base with children with special needs. And she too is a parent of children with special needs. And
Mhm.
so when assigned here, she came up with this program. And what it is you put a sticker on your car, you put it on your house. And when law enforcement's there, we've trained our people to understand, hey, there is some sort of disorder there. There's some sort of, maybe a lack of communication. Maybe it's autism's, maybe it's, some other type of, maybe it's hearing impaired, whatever it is.
Right.
But Big Ange came up with this, and it allows our deputy, because I mean, let's face it, if your interaction immediately is because of a disorder, has you appear to be violent or something like that, it puts the deputy at ease that, okay, I'm going to have a communication issue here.
Yes.
The other thing it does is, you as the parent, or you as the guardian, or you even with the person that may have the disorder, maybe it's a hearing disorder, you can go into our website, you can ask to be put on this list, and we will implement all the information that you feel comfortable with, that we will put in there. And that way, when the deputy, let's say, pulls over this car, and you want to give us your tag, okay, this person, John Smith, may have a
Mhm.
disorder, and that there's going to be some communication problems if you run into them. So yeah, it's a great program. I'm very proud of that program, and we implemented it probably about a year ago.
Got it. Thank you very much for that. And the other one was the language barrier that may occur with some of the Hispanic community in the area. The Hispanic community, as you know, continues to grow in this region. And yes, obviously, there are some that are not Spanish or, correction, English speakers or fluent enough to maybe understand direction, understand orders, and or questions from the sheriff's deputies that out there may stop them or ask questions. Is there anything going on within the department as it relates to bilingual speakers, translators, um, interpreters that you are working on or already have in place?
Yeah, we actually pay a stipend for people to learn a language. My daughter actually, she doesn't work here, but she speaks fluent Spanish just because of what you mentioned. She had a lot of Hispanic friends that she went to high school with, and she was very beneficial when we went to a country that didn't speak English. And it was very nice, but she's never taken Spanish, and her actual, I know I'm getting off on a personal tangent, but she wants to, when she graduates college, she wants to actually teach English Spanish around the country. So I think it's awesome. But she
Wonderful.
learned it just from speaking to the large Hispanic community that we have. But we at the sheriff's office have put into place a stipend program where we offer them, not only if they speak it, we will whatever language, and we have Russian speakers, Vietnamese speakers,
Yes.
Spanish speakers, but we are suffering, I will tell you, because we don't have enough. And so we've implemented that we'll actually pay for them to get the class and then pay them a stipend, because we have to call out, and it's hard to call out the same 4 or 5 different Hispanic speaking or Spanish speaking deputies, but because it is a bit overwhelming at times, sometimes that there we need more than what we have, but we're doing a good
Yes.
job with trying to implement that, but we've been doing that for quite some time.
Yes, one of the things that we're doing here in the community with a nonprofit organization that we have is we have started working with the Okaloosa County School District in helping them with the issue of the English language learners students. There's 1,500 kids within the school district of Okaloosa and 50 different languages represented within this 1,500 kids, Hispanics being the majority, as it is nationally and statewide, as you know. But yeah, 50 different languages represented, and obviously those kids represent families, and those families, many of them may have the English barrier still, not speaking it clear and fluently, and or not at all. So glad to see, glad to hear that there's efforts within the department towards that, and by all means, the stipend is a good thing, a good motivator for people to learn the language as much as they can. Sheriff, before we close, I'd like to give you the time to say any final words to anyone out there that may not know who Sheriff Aden is, what you've done before. As you're speaking, I'm going to show your website also, and just final words to that potential voter that is out there and does not know you yet, with the election coming up here soon. Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to first thank everyone in this community. Our community is the greatest place. I have said this for years. This is the greatest place in America to be a law enforcement officer. That's why many people come here and come here to be law enforcement officers from other areas. It's not just because it's a beautiful place to live. I mean, obviously, I love being able to give back to my community. It's been my passion my whole life to give back to the community that I love dearly. I've done it by sitting on boards like the United Way. Our community is what makes us different than most places. When other places were suffering, our community has always stood by us. They have not stopped the lack of their support, their trust, and their love for law enforcement. And I just want to say thank you, because it's proven itself certainly over the last couple of months, and it's still the greatest place to be a cop. And I want to thank you for that, because it's not just the sheriff, it's not just the great people that work here. We have 500 wonderful men and women that work here and do it right every day in and day out, protecting your lives. And it's not lost on us, the support, because without the support that we get from you, and I've always told every new hire, we cannot have our support lost within our community, and we thankfully still reap the rewards of that. So I would say that you're an educated public, and that's what I've tried to explain at these forums is I know you're an educated public. I know that you're going to do your research, and I hope you do. Please go to voteaden.com, and please go to these other websites and feel free to compare the actual experience and the actual knowledge and education of myself versus my opponents, frankly, or what I would say is opportunist. But what I would do is compare those, and I would certainly ask you for your vote on August the 20th, or if you want to do early voting, it starts August the 10th through the 16th. August 20th is the voting. Most important thing is, please, if you support after looking at my website, or you want to meet with me and sit down and get to know me a little bit better, if you support me, please tell your friends and family, because a lot of people can say, I vote for you, I vote for you, but if you don't go to the polls, it's all for nothing. So please, on August 20th, consider Eric Aden. I would love to be your sheriff for another 4 years, another 8 years. I have proven myself as a proven leader. And frankly, I think that's what sets myself apart among many other things from my opponents. And so I hope I get your vote. I hope I've earned it. And thank you for your time for listening to us today.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. And I know they can also find you in Facebook. We also want to invite everyone out there on the 14th of August. Conexión Media Group, which is the publisher of this publication of this show, and also the Conexión publication. We are going to host a meet and greet the candidates networking social. It is going to take place on 14 August at the El Paso Mexican restaurant in Mary Esther. Um, we want to make sure that you come out there and listen to what the candidates have to say. We do have it is open to any and all candidates that are out there running for office. We want to give you the opportunity to come and meet and greet a multicultural audience of business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and others that will come from they're going to come from other places for sure, I can assure you, but there's going to be many from Okaloosa County that can be potential voters for you. So you're going to get a chance to meet and greet those individuals. But we do have some special guests, and the special guests include Sheriff Aden. And those special guests will get an opportunity to more directly speak to the entire audience. In addition to Sheriff Aden, we are going to have some county commissioner candidates. Marianne Wines will be there. We're going to have Carrie Pitzer come over. DiCarlo Garcia is going to be also one of the special guests. And we also have David Schmidt, who is running for the school board in Okaloosa County as a special guest. So again, it is open to the public. Pre-register either through Facebook and or by contacting us via email, and come out and enjoy yourselves while you meet the candidates, these great candidates that are running for office. You're also going to have a great time because we are going to have some door prizes and do some networking, which is also very important, obviously. And then we're going to close it out with some music for those of you that want to stay and hang out a little bit longer. You know, some people would like to do that. Well, then fine. Plus food. So it's going to be fun, but at the same time important because it is election season, ladies and gentlemen. Like the sheriff just said, you know, it is so important for everyone to out there get to know who is running. Don't just don't go by names or even party affiliation. Get to know them. Go to their website, watch these interviews, and then you make a more educated and good decision in a sense because now you know who the individual is rather than just by going by names or what your friends said. That's the bottom line. These people are serving our county, the city, and the school boards, and then they're important positions. So thank you very much, Sheriff Aden, for being with us, giving us the opportunity to talk to you in a more detailed manner as to who you are, getting your word out to the people that are out there watching us. We appreciate you, and you have been doing a great job for Okaloosa County. And may the Lord continue to bless you and protect you, and number one, and also hopefully continue doing that passion service that you are doing as the Okaloosa County Sheriff. Thank you very much, Sheriff.
Thank you. And if you, I will look forward to meeting you at the meet and greet. And if you can't see the El Paso sign, you'll see my big sign for Aden for Sheriff out front because my friend Rogelio Chavez owns that establishment.
That's right.
And my friend George Lopez owns the Peppers across the street. So we look forward to being there at El Paso. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. This has been a special edition of Making Connections, the interview show. Please follow us in Facebook. Look for this interview soon in a couple of days. But we are going to also flush them out through all the social media sites. Thank you very much for being with us and have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Do you want to advertise to thousands of Hispanics and non-Hispanics in Northwest Florida, and Southern Alabama?
¿Quieres promover tu empresa y producto a miles de hispanos y no hispanos?
Connection is your most cost-efficient way to do so.
Conexión es tu solución.
We are the largest English and Spanish publication in our region. Our primary mission is to inform, guide, and educate our readers via interesting content.
Somos la publicación mensual en español y en inglés de la más grande distribución en toda la región. Además de las 5,000 copias en papel, tenemos activas las redes sociales, incluyendo Facebook, Twitter e Instagram, y también por Internet.
Conexión is your bridge to connect you to the growing Hispanic market in the region. Call us.
Llámanos.